Good day and welcome to my channel. I'm Lawrence DeMetrius, your host. And in this video, we'll be looking at the book of Jasher, an intimate review part 2, covering chapters 18 through 40 by yours truly. Just one of many intimate reviews you can enjoy at my website, lawrencedemetrius.com, where there is also an array of original praise and worship songs for your spiritual enrichment. Again, that's lawrencedemetrius.com. Go and visit today. But right now, we'll jump right into today's review. Chapters 18 and 19 give an account of how angels can materialize in the terrestrial plane as mortals. They also give a thorough account of the 5 cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, their true description, and the real reason Yahweh utterly destroyed them. It was customary that 4 times a year, the citizens would gather for large outdoor parties that resulted in mass orgies where men ungrudgingly had sex with each other's wives and daughters. Chapters 18 and 19 tells that the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were so extremely inhospitable to strangers who traveled through their land, especially men who they would rob of their goods and drive from their cities if they were not wealthy. However, if the men were poor, they would torture them to death on stretch beds that were placed throughout the cities, or starve them to death because they had nothing to be robbed of. Women who showed compassion toward male strangers that were to die per unjust laws were sentenced to horrific deaths. Peleth, the daughter of Lot, was burned alive, and another female citizen of a native city called Admah was doused with honey and allowed to be stung to death by bees. In addition, Eleazar, a messenger sent by Sarai to inquire about the well-being of her brother Lot, suffered an assault of these unjust laws, but escaped the city alive. Wow, the citizens of Sodom and Gomorrah knew how to practice tranquility and did so amongst themselves. Obviously, they expressed no tranquility toward those who were not natives of their cities. Although they were wealthy and had plenty to share with the less fortunate, they refused to give or be compassionate toward them. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were demonically driven and lived by laws and customs that altogether contradicted laws and customs of righteousness. They practiced the contrary laws solely to provoke the Lord and expressed no interest in changing. They did so until he finally decided to destroy them from the face of the earth with fire and brimstone. Chapter 19 also clarifies that Lot's wife looked back on the city because she longed for her daughters, who decided to stay there in spite of Yahweh's warnings. Due to her concerns for these transgressing daughters, she too lost her life and disintegrated into salt. This serves as a warning to all who hold such concern for those who defy the Lord and are divinely cursed for doing so. No one loves sinners as much as the Lord. But when time is up to make change, there is no reason to long for the salvation of those who wholeheartedly reject the merciful hand of God. Chapter 20 reports the second account of Abram presenting Sarah as his sister instead of his wife. Regardless of the world's view of marriage, it is of utmost reverence to Yahweh, especially when it's one that he has purposed and ordained. Those who interfere with such unions can suffer death for themselves and their entire household. Chapter 21 tells of the birth of Isaac, who was born to Abraham at 100 years of age and Sarah at 90. It notes the real reason why Sarah commanded Abraham to put Hagar and Ishmael out of the household. It was because she saw the envy an intent of Ishmael to kill Isaac even at a young age. Here also is noted how women who lacked proper respect toward their husbands, their children, and other men of honor were dismissed from their duties as a wife. A good wife was highly honored for her virtuous character and demeanor. Abraham was an example of a father who truly loves and nurtures his offspring well into their adulthood. Chapter 2 tells of how the practice of hospitality, feeding the poor and clothing the naked, gave Abraham opportunities to witness to others about the goodness of the Lord in his life. It tells of how he taught his son Isaac the ways of Yahweh. It was something Isaac said to his brother Ishmael when he was 37 years old that moved Yahweh to test Abraham with the challenge of sacrificing him, or Isaac. As it is noted in the book of Job, so too is it noted here that Lucifer was able to present himself in the courts of heaven with the sons of God. The account gives credence to the information provided by Enoch concerning Satan's and their activity of defamation toward the children of earth. In fact, Jesus Christ gives an account of daily challenges presented by evil towards mortals. We see that at Matthew chapter 6, verse 34. We also see it with his personal wilderness experience at Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. Chapter 23 tells of how women like Sarah possessed much power regarding their children. In some cases, fathers had to get the approval of the child's mother in order to involve the child in certain events. Sarah was extremely wealthy, having male and female servants of her own, and much say in the life of her son Isaac. The chapter reiterates what Enoch taught regarding cherub angels and their shape-shifting ability to interact with mortals in the terrestrial realm. Evil entities are always going to try to deter the righteous from moving in the direction given them by God, as exemplified in this account here in Jasher. Noted here is Lucifer, the cherub angel, transforming himself into the form of an old man, then a young man, and then that of a brook of water, all in an attempt to hinder Abraham and Isaac from fulfilling their vow of sacrifice. Lucifer tried his best down to the last opportunity by holding back the ram from presenting itself as the alternative sacrifice to no avail. As expressed in this passage, the best way to recognize and overcome evil illusions is to know the Lord personally, know his word concerning our lives, and comply with this insight without wavering. Talks to us, Apostle James talks to us about that in James chapter 1. Yahweh truly expects the just to live by faith in him and his word, Romans 1 verse 17. Both Abraham and Isaac were wholeheartedly committed to performing the ultimate sacrifice of Isaac. It was only when Abraham proved his loyalty and faith in Yahweh that his seed inherited his promised blessings. However, divine supplication went forth in heaven on their behalf, and Isaac's replacement, which was already prepared by the Lord, was revealed. Sarah died from overwhelming joy, knowing that her son Isaac really was not dead, but lived to fulfill his destiny and promise of God. Chapter 24 reports that Sarah died when she was 127 years old. Shem, the son of Noah, was at her funeral. Rebekah, Isaac's young cousin, was betrothed to him at the age of 10 when he himself was 40. Chapter 25 reports that after a long while of mourning Sarah, Abraham did marry again and fathered 6 children by Keturah of Canaan. Chapter 26 reiterates how Yahweh is not a liar. Whatever he said he will do no matter what one's personal circumstance looks like. In some cases, he prefers to express his ability when seemingly impossible situations arise in the lives of his worshipers. As in the case of Sarah, Rebekah, the wife of her son Isaac, was also barren. However, this did not prevent the Lord's promise from being fulfilled through her womb, for she, at the appointed time, gave birth to twins, Esau and Jacob, especially in fulfillment of his word. Yahweh wants to express to those whose hearts are whole toward him that nothing is impossible for him, which is reiterated by Jesus Christ. We see that at Mark chapter 11, verse 21. James 1, verse 7 and 8, and all the way back at 2 Corinthians chapter 16. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 9. This chapter also emphasizes that Yahweh's promise to Abraham's seed was conditional. The condition was that they had to remain obedient to his instructions. We see that at Deuteronomy 28, verses 1 through 14, and Leviticus 26, verses 1 through 14, which is very, very special, especially for the descendants of those who were the victims of the last and the greatest chattel slavery. We'll touch more on that later. History has shown that all who remain obedient to divine directives inherit the blessing of the Lord. Those who defy his word invoke curses upon themselves, which is reiterated by Jesus Christ. We see that at Leviticus 26, verses 15 through 46, and Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 through 68. And we also see it at St. John 3, verses 16 through 21 and 36. Chapter 26 reports that upon completing Isaac's ministerial training in the word of the Lord, Abraham transitioned at the age of 175. He was 175. He was celebrated for being the great man that he was before God and men, who taught and obeyed instruction, divine instruction. This indeed is the description of those who are considered great in the kingdom of heaven. Apostle Matthew notes that at Matthew chapter 5, verse 19. Chapter 27 reveals that it was the plan of Yahweh for Esau to sell his birthright to Jacob. Chapter 28 discloses that Shem, the son of Noah, was still alive to teach Jacob, the son of Isaac, the ways of the Lord. However, he died when he was 600 years old. It tells of how Yahweh blessed Rebekah's brother Laban and his wife Adinah, with twin girls, Leah and Rachel, who eventually became the wives of Jacob. Chapter 29 reports that Ishmael, the son of Abraham, died when he was 127, when Jacob, the son of Isaac, was 64 years old. Here too is noted the account of Isaac and Rebekah sending Jacob to Haran's house for safety and to seek out an upright woman for a wife. Chapter 30 accounts of Eber's death at the age of 464. He was the son of Shem, who was the son of Noah. Chapter 31 tells that Laban and his daughter Rachel needed deliverance from idol worship. It also discloses the real reason why Laban made Jacob work 14 years before officially receiving Leah and Rachel as wives. Laban truly loved his twins and didn't want them to part from them too soon. Chapter 32 gives another account of angels appearing as in the terrestrial realm as 2,000 armed soldiers. Chapters 33 and 34 teaches of how kidnap and sexual assaults like rape, adultery, and fornication were considered acts of death. The account is exemplified by the conduct of Shisham, the son of a ruler in the land of Sukkoth, toward Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. Such conduct was deemed contrary to written principles of righteousness prior to the 10 Commandments. Chapter 35 serves as a historical recap of events with Abraham. Chapter 36 tells of the deaths of Deborah, the nurse of Rebekah, the wife of Isaac and the mother of Jacob and Esau, Laban, the father of Leah and Rachel, wife of Jacob and daughter of Laban. It tells of the 12 sons of Jacob and his name change to Israel. It gives the account of Israel's eldest son, Reuben, who was angry with him because he preferred the bed of Bilhah, the handmaid of his deceased wife, Rachel, over that of his mother, Leah. In his anger, he raped Bilhah, and as a consequence, lost his rights as the firstborn. These were then appointed to Joseph, the son of Rachel, who was also the mother of Benjamin. The chapter gives the account of Esau's children and their inheritance of the land of Seir. It tells of an encounter of Esau's descendants. Well, it tells of an encounter that Esau's descendants had, excuse me, with mutant creatures that existed after the Great Flood. And remember, at the beginning, it talked about how some of the sinners and the idolaters were mixing the seed of different species to create these mutant type creatures. So there are a lot of very different type of creatures running around the earth at that time because of that. All right, and Esau's descendants happened to experience some of these mutant creatures. Chapters 37 and 40 covers information about battles undergone by Israel's sons, as much are detailed also in the King James Version as well. And there you have it. That is part 2 of the book of Jasher, an intimate review, part 2, covering chapters 18 through 40. You can also see these reviews at my website, which is lawrencedemetrius.com, along with a lot of great music that you can enjoy. And thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video, where we will be looking at the book of Jasher, an intimate review, part 3. Until then, be blessed in Jesus' name.